Hey guys, Gemma from ASD Rocks. So since COVID, I just haven't gotten better. Don't know what to tell you. I'm on my way down to the chemist now, actually, to pick up a myriad of soothing items to try and help me get through things, but it just seems like I have no immune system whatsoever. So everything and anything that anyone gets, and I come in contact with them, it just takes me out for the count. There's a few things I wanted to talk to you about that have happened. I generally don't do too much while I'm sick because I'm usually lying in bed and dying and don't have the ability to. But as I'm dressed and on my way to the chemist, I thought I'd take advantage. So, excuse me. I got a phone call this week from Beaus school about a consent talk. So the phone call was from the student manager, the Year 10 student manager, and she was like, oh, how you going? Just wanted to ring you because we're doing a Year 10 talk about consent, and I just want to talk to you about, Beaus. So they know to inform me about absolutely everything and anything that is going to be happening or going on. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't really know what you mean. Consent, like what? Are we talking relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or are we talking friendships consent, or are we talking like, friends when you're out and there's peer pressure and that kind of consent? Like what are we talking consent? And she was like, oh no, relationships consent, like girlfriend, boyfriend consent. So I was like, okay. So like, again, I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about like safe words, or I said, Beaus is really over a lot of this. This is sort of discussions that I can't believe you're waiting until they're 16, or if anyone is waiting until these kids are 16, 17 to have these kinds of discussions. I mean, obviously our situation is different. We have literally had a safe word for everything. When Beau and Finn were playing, we needed a word because Finn wouldn't always pick up on those triggers, and when Beau said no, it was no and stop, and you would stop immediately, and Finn learned that really quickly. But as Beau developed in his play, no became part of the play. And so they actually, one day I walked in and I heard one of them scream pineapple, and I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, that's our safe word. And I was like, what? They said, yeah, well, like, when one of us, is actually being hurt or we want to stop, we say pineapple. And I was like, oh, okay, these kids were so young. But it was amazing. They'd worked it out, because otherwise Beau would have a meltdown. Finn couldn't understand, necessarily the triggers or the sounds, the differences. So they worked that out together. So I said to this woman, okay, we're talking about sexual consent specifically, if we're talking about consent in relationships. I said, my only concern, I said, I'm happy for Beau to do it. I said, in fact, I think it would be great for him to be there and but my main concern is that this is such a simple subject for Beau. Like it's so black and white. It's so easy to understand that my concern is that he will say something very obvious very, very obvious, that will then be taken by the other kids as just being really stupid. And I gave the example, and I will never, ever forget this, and I don't think I will ever, ever stop feeling guilty about this. But at my school, and this was in year 8 when we were having these sorts of conversations, it was called PD, Personal Development. And one of the kids in the class said, look, you know, it's where we go to the toilet, you just shouldn't put your mouth there. And the entire class just cracked up at this kid, right? I mean, just absolutely pounded him. And you know what? Kids are assholes, man. They really are. Excuse me. And I remember this kid sitting in this class, and he was weeping. I mean, snot was coming out. He had to be excused from the class. He was just pounded so hard for this comment. And I remember it. And you know what? I'm not saying that he's wrong or he's right. I'm saying that he said something that, you know, is very easily said. And kids will, you know, if it's not cool to say it, that kid is just going to be pounded. And that was my absolute major concern for Beau, was that he was going to say something really obvious, because he's not interested in girls. He understands consent. But, you know, his lines are so black and white that I don't, you know, I was worried for his protection. Anyway, I went to Beau and I said, listen, buddy, they actually ended up sending me, a list, and I'll put it up of what they were going to talk about. Because I went to Beau and I said, hey, listen, they're doing a consent talk on Friday, you know, but the teacher had said, oh, you know, because he'd been off a week for COVID and he was a little bit behind, he was allowed to take his biology lesson. He was allowed to do his biology test while the other kids had the consent talk. So I said to Beau, look, you can go and do the consent talk with the other kids, or you can do biology. And Beau was like, oh, biology, 100% biology. Not even a question. Yep, I'd love to do biology. Once they sent this through, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that, I mean, Beau's across all of it. He's across absolutely all of it. It's conversation and discussion that we have had for ages. We've always talked about puberty, sexuality, respect, consent. So I started way earlier because I knew it was going to take him that sort of longer to sink in, to really have those core basic understandings well before he started getting interested in those sorts of subjects and things, so that he could manage it on a sort of cognitive level. So yeah, Beau chose biology hands down, and apparently that all went extremely well. But I will put up what they were going to talk about, and I'll be really interested in regards to your views. I love that schools are doing this. I think, man, the person who runs that class has a tough class ahead of them. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know how kids are these days, but I'm pretty sure, even with all of this sort of LGBTQ, I think that's it. You know, non-binary thing. I think kids are still kids, and I think they're still, you know, giggling, and I think they're still assholes to each other. So I'd be curious to hear about you guys and how you feel your kids would cope with going into a mainstream class. I'm talking about ASD level, obviously, because this would be boring for Beau. This would be obvious for Beau. This would be but I can see the danger in him saying something, which, because he's completely disinterested in that part so far. I'd be curious to hear you as parents, what you think about sending your kids into a class like that would be, other than the fact that Beau would way prefer biology. All right, see you guys.